Thank you to the whole team at City Lab. They've been incredible. This is not the only project we've worked on together, so we've done a few exciting things. But I want to recognize my team, which is Jenna Hornstock and Deidre Lind are over there, which is very exciting. I also want to thank Cheryl Kisop from BMO for their initial support. So, you know, honestly, every so often, there's always this conversation about what to do with public land, what to do with small lots, whether public or private, and the fact that City Lab took this on and said, how do we harness the creativity of this community is incredible, and the work they've done so far has been incredible, and then bringing Genesis LA on as a partner and figuring out what's next. It is these models of potential affordable homeownership, of potential gentle density, of potential creativity that really make a city and really are part of why we love Los Angeles. LA for LA is a public-private partnership started with Mayor Bass that was really expanded into many different communities, and we are so excited to be a part of this conversation about creativity and the future. And I just thank you all for being here. And I see Abby actually from Mayor Bass's office, although she's about to go off to earn a graduate degree. And I think there might be other members who've been involved from the beginning. And I just want to thank you all for your faith in that we could do things differently. We could cut the cost and come up with innovation and really make our city as special as it can be. So thank you all for being here.
We'll try to keep this brief. Manos has us on like 3-minute intervals. I'm actually going to abide by that. So I just want to give a little refresher, which is this project started really innocently in 2024, which is warp speed when you think about anything happening in our building industry. Manos and I went to the department, the Deputy Mayor for Housing's office, Jenna Hornstock, with the idea that City Lab could help Mayor Karen Bass reach her housing goals by exploring city-owned residential lots that were under a quarter of an acre. We have all kinds of theories about that. We've done GIS mapping about that. And our partners in the city, I think, really deserve a tremendous amount of credit. We're still working with them. We meet with them weekly. They are dedicated to this. It's a tough road to get through on the public side of the process, but we've always imagined that the public and the private development would be a kind of marriage to make possible small infill, affordable home ownership opportunities. So many of you in this room have actually consulted with us in the past. I'm looking at Mott Smith, for instance. I think you said we could never do it, and I'm really hoping you're going to be wrong.
Never said that.
You never said that? Okay.
Mott is never wrong.
It was just the look on your face and the feeling inside me, like, is this crazy? So I just want to send out a special thanks to our partners in the city and the mayor's office, and especially at LAHD, the housing department, who've been so steady. And we will probably by end of summer have the public land component of this ready to share with you. And we'll probably be right back here at the AIA headquarters with more drinks and hors d'oeuvres to celebrate that small lots initiative with public land. I also have to thank City Lab team. I mean, obviously, Manos Prasaloglu has really spearheaded this whole effort. Ryan Conroy, who is now in practice with his partner, Brooke Hare, was with us when this began and made it great. Cora Johnson-Grau, who, I don't know, you've seen her all over tonight, and our City Lab Coalition partners, some of whom are here with us tonight, a new part of City Lab, which is a much wider group of students who want to be involved in the big social impact, social justice work that we're doing. The big design competition that we celebrated here last May laid the groundwork for developing infill sites more sustainably, compactly, flexibly, and beautifully. Those ideas as well as others, are now going to be put to the test of actual development and construction on a few privately held parcels that design development teams will identify. To build a new generation of starter homes will require creative thinking on multiple fronts, showing how to, 1, design dignified, compact, sustainable, flexible, economic homes. That's not a simple recipe. To build respectfully within existing neighborhoods with their character in mind, and I know we have some of the developers here who represent those communities. To create generous financing packages that give developers the space to innovate and make a modest profit. If we can't do that, yes, thank you, yes. Show me the money. Exactly. I know that. We know that. Genesis knows that. And then to make the effort into a demonstration project for a much larger group of sites and development teams. So we really see this as the mother goose that's going to lead the way for the next Los Angeles. We've estimated that there are as many as 24,000 privately held residential lots just in the city of Los Angeles. Utilizing new state and local legislation is complicated enough to untangle that we feel like we've now become specialists in that. We might be able to build an average of about 5 homes on each of those lots for a total of 120,000 new starter homes in the city. That is a remarkable contribution. There would be in the, of those 120,000, maybe 40,000 that would be affordable. And that would constitute a third of all the units the state expects us to produce. That's only possible because we're partnered with Genesis LA for this first round. Its president and CEO, Tom DeSimone, has been a guiding light, really, for creative, affordable housing development in our region. And lucky for us, a longtime friend of City Lab. So Tom, maybe you right there.
Thank you, Dana and team. It was funny, I went to college thinking I wanted to be an architect. I've always loved architecture. Then I realized I had to take physics and calculus, so forget that. I'll stick to finance, which is just addition, subtraction, and division. Genesis LA was founded in 1998 to assist with creative financing to tackle some of the city's hardest and most intractable community development challenges. And today, I think it's indisputable that the housing space is that issue, more than any other. Over a year ago, we started partnering with Dana and her team at City Lab because we believe that unlocking more missing middle housing was a critical component to addressing the city's housing crisis. When you think about LA, I think that the city's unique architectural character is one of the things that really defines it. And when you think of the neighborhoods that come to mind, Leimert Park, Silver Lake, Los Feliz, West Adams, so many, Venice, Highland Park. The character of those neighborhoods are missing middle communities, different housing at different scales for different types of residents. And we built a ton of that for a long, long time in the city. And then right around the end of World War II, we made it illegal. You couldn't build this housing anymore. Parking rules, setbacks, density limitations, and the most beloved types of housing in the city, bungalow courts, courtyard apartments, the 2 to 4 unit walk-ups in the Fairfax district. These types of homes we couldn't build anymore. And now, with so many laws changing, we have hope that we can try to rebuild that city fabric and really enlarge the housing stock in the character that has made this city such a special place for so many of us. So we want to support more housing like this through the Small Lots Big Impact Initiative, and we're hoping to remove one of the key barriers to doing that, which is the financing barrier. We know that developers struggle to raise capital to build housing, especially missing middle housing, because there's a limited access to equity capital, and there's a limited ability to actually deliver the returns that equity investors expect. So we are providing high leverage debt financing to help developers close that gap. We hope that this will unlock the potential to do this over and over at more scale and bring new entrants into the field. So I want to thank Dana and Manos at City Lab for their creative vision here. I also want to thank Sarah and her team for investing in this work. And I want a special shout out to my colleagues, Sarah Harris and Darnell Grant, who you'll be hearing from shortly, who've invested significant time and their passion into this work to not only build more middle-scale housing, but to also build up the developers it's going to take to do this across the city. So thank you all.
So we're going to get into some details now about the request for information, which will be live as soon as I get home tonight and put it online. So we're almost there, which is really exciting. So first of all, just to kind of echo what Dana and Tom said, the whole point of this initiative is to really get built models, to really build demonstration projects that kind of actualize the potential, let's say, of a new housing policy and new ideas that everyone's super excited about, and also try to kind of build an industry that shows that we can do this and sort of knows how to deliver these kinds of housing projects. So for those of you who've been with us from the start, a lot of the stuff you're actually going to see in this presentation is going to be somewhat familiar. Presentations about the kind of public land RFQ, I've talked about some of these same points. And we started back in May with the design competition. 350 submissions we received from the competition that really showed how you could build really incredible high-quality homes, infill housing, that's tailored specifically to LA, and it was really incredible to see that reaction. And now where we are is essentially in the split, right? The RFQ for public land is coming soon, as Dana mentioned. In that one, public sites are going to be provided for development teams to respond to, and the benefits inherent in that program are going to be expediting kind of political help through council district efforts and advocacy that we've been working on, and also access to this down payment assistance program that the housing department already runs called the Moderate Income Purchase Assistance Program. Now, today, on the private side with the RFI, we're launching this sort of second appendage, let's say, where private sites are going to be found by teams who submit. We'll talk about that again in another minute. And then they'll have access to, this is what's going to hopefully grease the wheels and makes these projects pencil out, to development financing worth up to 95% of total development costs. It's a pretty incredible deal. We'll hear more about that from Sarah and Darnell later. So let's talk about it a little bit more. The intention with the program is to fund 3 projects in this first round. We're actively looking for more funding to see if we can support more work moving forward. Projects aimed at homeownership, at building multiple units on lots that would otherwise essentially host 1, 2, or 3, trying to maximize the number of units on site. We're aiming for projects that fall between 3 to 10 primary units. That's not particularly set in stone, but that's really the scale that we're looking towards. Sites are to be a half acre or less, so we're going slightly higher even than the sites in the public land RFQ. Located within the city of LA, at least for this portion of the project. Privately owned, and again are brought by the development teams who apply. And importantly also zoned to allow residential development. What we're trying to do on both sides of the initiative is to show that, under existing rules and using policies and state policies and density policies that are now in place, we can actually make these things happen without needing big zoning variants or something like that from the city. One thing that's important to mention is you can certainly apply with a specific site already acquired if you have that, or identified and you're particularly sure that's a site you want to work on. But we're also open to and actually expecting most people that respond will be in the second category, which is you have a target market you're interested in, you have a site type of site you're looking for, and we're going to ask you a bunch of questions about that in the RFI to help us understand what your vision is for this kind of site and this kind of project. So yeah, you don't need to have a site to apply, and we're really open to sort of seeing what everyone comes up with. This is a very similar slide to a previous presentation that we've given, but the intention here is that development teams are responding to the RFI. Most likely in our estimation is this means a developer is partnering with an architect, but there could also just be one entity that has architecture and development in-house that's applying. There could be a consortium of multiple teams that are coming together to put together their application. We're sort of flexible in that regard for development teams. And these teams are going to be evaluated on 3 important components here. Their design capacity, and that's really evaluated based on how closely the projects that you've worked on before and the project you're thinking about doing with this RFI aligns with the design competition goals from the competition in May that Dana and Tom have been outlining. Your development capacity, so what you've done in the past and whether those projects have been delivered on time, on budget, using sort of industry metrics. And then also your financial capacity, that's going to be based on two pieces, both the financing of past projects. This is going to say if you have delivered these projects effectively and have really robust pro formas, that's going to be one way to sort of enter through the initiative. And then the second piece is also being able to guarantee Genesis's financing. The details are in the RFI, but there's a couple of sort of standard requirements there for the teams that submit. Really important, and what we want to see is teams that have as much relevant work really as possible, and relevance, we're thinking both in terms of the scale of the housing. If you've built projects like this before, we know it's not a housing scale that's particularly common in the city, as this is part of the reason that we're doing this effort, but the more relevant, the better, and also as much local work as possible too. Stuff in LA, stuff in LA County, stuff in Southern California is really going to be focused. So, a number of requirements to enter the RFI, good standing in the state of California. One thing that we've done for 2 or 3 of the 4 requirement categories here is set the kind of bar to apply reasonably low, hoping to get as many teams interested in applying as possible, with a kind of signed letter, signed attestation that you will be able to meet the requirements a little bit further on, like the ones I was mentioning about meeting Genesis's kind of financial capacities and things like that. Design development experience, so the prerequisite really to enter is that the development team, and it's important to mention by that we also mean sort of someone on the development team, has met this criteria. So designed or developed 1 or more housing projects in California in the past 10 years, and again, ideally they're relevant in size and scale. That means if there's an experienced developer who wants to work with an architect who maybe has less experience delivering this kind of housing, together that team would still qualify because the developer would be the one, for example, to be able to show that experience, or vice versa as well. If, and this is something that we talked about quite a lot as we were preparing the RFI, if this is an opportunity that you see, you are, let's say, an experienced housing practitioner, maybe from a bigger firm, and you see this as a way to kind of strike out on your own and maybe start on a new kind of project or open, kind of a new housing market for yourself, you're able to apply as well using the experience from your past work, but what we ask is that you tell us what role you played in those projects. Essentially prove to us that you played a really important role in that work, and that you'll be able to have the technical capacity then to actually deliver if we were to award you through the RFI. I think we talked about financial strength essentially already. We're going to ask for financial documentation, pro formas, things like that from past projects, and then the insurance requirement to enter is on the screen as well, outlined in the RFI. So one important piece here is the financing is, as we talked about, really kind of an incredible package, and we've been running a whole lot of modeling using the assumptions for acquisition loans and pre-development loans. And we're targeting projects that provide one of these 2 affordability metrics, right? A quarter of the units at 100% of AMI or below, or 50% of the units at 120% of AMI or below. Part of the stuff, or one piece of the RFI, that we'll talk about a little bit later is a financing worksheet where we should talk about kind of these assumptions and how people might get there. But what's important to note is this is a target for us. It's going to be important as we're looking at applications. But if it's impossible for you to do that in the market that you're targeting, if you don't think you'll be able to meet these criteria, you're still able to apply, but again, we're going to ask for a short description essentially that explains why, kind of what the market conditions are that make it difficult for you to reach this, and again, sort of why that's difficult with the pro forma that you're pushing forward, the project you're pushing forward. Okay, now I'll talk a little bit about how we're going to evaluate teams, and don't worry, after me, we're going to talk about the actual assistance and some of the detailed benefits you're going to be getting. So the pieces that are going to be scored are essentially all on the screen here, and again, the RFI will be up within a couple hours. You can look at all the details. A couple of pieces that we're calling narratives, really 1- or 2-page descriptions where you talk about past experience and talk a little bit about the project that you're hoping to produce. A lot of the points are coming from your portfolio. This is looking at past work that you've done with a focus on evaluating whether the work has been done, again, locally. There's a number of points available there. The design quality of that work, which is based on the design competition criteria. And then there's also a category here for whether previous work has won industry awards, whether it's been featured in publications and things of that nature. And one thing we're really excited about is we wanted to make sure that the work from the design competition has a chance to really get translated here into built work. So for development teams that include architects who've competed in the design competition, there's the potential to get 2 additional points, essentially extra credit points in this category. And to work with architects who have won the competition, it's a 5-point boost as well. So again, trying to make sure that strong architects and their strong ideas from the first stage have an opportunity to get built in the second stage. And then the last piece, this 30-point section, is where we tell us about the project you're intending to build. That'll be done through both a question and answer section, where we ask a bunch of questions about potentially design, development, and financing, the 3 categories that keep coming up. And then also this financing worksheet. There's a template available online that'll be linked in the RFI that gets to the kind of level of detail we're hoping to see from teams. If you have a site here that you are applying to the RFI with, we expect that worksheet to be for the site you're applying with. If you're targeting a target market and have an idea of the kind of site you want to buy or I guess acquire, we want the financing worksheet to be about a similar site, right? Choose a site, use that as a representative site, and kind of show us how your model would work in the particular neighborhood. Okay, here is the committee. Here are the people that are going to be evaluating your submissions and essentially scoring the submissions. So I think my last slide is the next one where I'll talk through that a little bit more. Yeah, she really likes that dress a lot.
You're wearing the same
I should have said
And Stephen Lewis.
yeah, I think Steven's in the audience, which is wonderful. Oh, okay, well, that's my fault. It's an amazing selection committee, really with a broad base of experience. As you can see on the screen, academics, researchers, architects, financial people who are doing financing, land use law, really incredible group of long-term Angelinos, and I think a group that's going to be broad-based and pick really strong projects as we move forward. Okay, I think this is my last one. Here's loosely what the selection process is going to look like. So first, after we receive the RFI applications, the organizing team is going to go through and conduct essentially a threshold review, make sure all the documents are there, make sure they meet, which is all listed in the RFI, a number of kind of baseline criteria. And then we'll turn those over, the applications that rise above the threshold review, to the selection committee to score. Applications that score a 70 or above will make the bench of qualified teams to work on these projects. As I said, at the moment, it seems like we have financing to support 3 projects, so the intention would be the selection committee picks 3 high-scoring teams to recommend to sort of move forward. Those teams would negotiate and sign a letter of intent. They would then have 60 days to try to find a site if they don't have one yet and actually execute the purchase and sale agreement. If they don't meet that deadline, though there's some flexibility with our team and ability to extend, the intention would be that we would then move back to the bench and sort of offer the LOI and the opportunity to another team. And that same thing goes from purchase and sale agreement to actually closing escrow, having the site under your control, and starting to build. This is actually my last slide, which is the timeline. Okay, so obviously today, May 7th, is the release day. The RFI will be up later on our website. Next week, we'll house the proposers conference. We'll also have a Q&A session sort of now live to give a more thorough presentation and also answer some questions online. We'll post a Q&A document with detailed responses 2 times in the next couple weeks. And then the RFI submissions are due about 5 weeks from now, so June 12th. And then mid-July is when we expect to have the bench announced and the team selected as well. So we're super excited about this. That's the boring kind of process stuff. And now I'll hand it over to the Genesis team to talk about the assistance, which is the exciting stuff. Thanks, Homer.
So for our assistants, we have kind of development, technical assistance, and then also the finance side, which I know everyone's most excited about. But just on the development side, briefly, Genesis LA, this is kind of our approach or our ethos whenever we work with developers, but really view it as a partnership, thinking through with the selected development teams, helping them refine their budget, pro formas. We've done some of this missing middle development before, both with affordable developers and also more mixed income developers. So looking at assumptions we've had from the past, looking at lessons learned from past pilots, and helping the selected teams kind of create the most feasible project. Some other things we're looking at is support with entitlement expediting depending on kind of the project, support with helping affordable home buyers and connecting you to credit unions or other kind of mortgage lenders when you're ready to sell the unit. So we, with our two organizations combined, really have this kind of design, development, entitlement side, and then also the finance side that we're hoping to bring as supports to make these projects successful and feasible, which is always the challenge. And then for financing, so we have this fund. It's a mixed capital fund, so it has some of our standard kind of Genesis LA debt capital and then some grant capital from JP Morgan Chase, which is part of a broader kind of home ownership initiative that we've been working on. And so because of this kind of mixed integrated capital fund, we're able to do more affordable rates than typically you would see on market and typically even from CDFI. So Darnell will get into the details, but for the acquisition loan, it's going to be 95% LTV, 5% will be from the development team. That can be equity from the developer, or it can be cash from the developer, or it can be equity that the developer raises, but they just have to bring that to the table. And then pre-development loan, 100% of that financing we're able to provide. And then for construction, 95%. And then another 5% of total development costs the developer will bring to the table. And just to confirm, so for each phase, we're kind of, because we're refinancing ourselves, we're taking out our previous financing. So when you get to the construction loan, it's the total development cost that we're refinancing up to 95%. I'll now pass to Darnell.
Hi everyone, show me the money is probably the apt phrase right now. So for the acquisition loans, we're looking at a 4.25% interest rate. As Sarah mentioned, it's a 95% LTV. The borrower has to bring 5% equity, up to $1 million per project, and the term is 18 months with up to 6 months extension available. Interest only, and then it will be repaid by the construction loan. For the pre-development loan, we're looking at a 3% interest rate, 100% loan to value, so no equity is needed from the developer at this phase in the project. Up to $800,000 is the maximum per project, and an 18-month term with 6 months extension available. Interest only, and will be repaid by the construction loan. Lastly, and my favorite product, the construction loan, which is roughly 4 to 5%. It might be it's a range here just because there's different pools of capital, cost of capital may vary, also depends on the project. We're looking at 95% loan to value. In terms of the sizing, and this is very crucial here, a prerequisite to close on the construction financing is getting an appraisal of the to-be-built units of the project. And then we're going to size the construction loan to be the lesser of either the total development cost or the total appraised value. So if there's a scenario in which you get an appraisal and it's lower than the total development cost, probably could happen. We're going to go that route. And alternatively, if the total development costs are lower, well, you get to save yourself some money there. Up to $6 million would be available per project with an 18-month term and 6-month extension, interest only, and this will be repaid at the point of wholesale. So we'll leave that there and open it up for questions and see.